Welcome back to the Thera mod Abridged, where in the previous part we were taking down many an army from the warriors of Kukulkan. We pretty much cleared them out of our territory, and now we're pushing into theirs on two fronts. We've just got to the point when we've finished off everything that's attacking our front lines, and now we're going to go for finishing blows really. They've only got 3 territories left. 2 of them are just to the north of our main force, which as we can see is wandering out to look for a target. We win that super easy battle. Now a bit of spying reveals there is a half stack in this city. We can siege them inside and then just chill here really. We can spend a lot of time making siege equipment because the other settlement nearby doesn't have much stuff. Doesn't mean they won't recruit more stuff, but we can probably out-recruit them at this stage with our economy being bigger, so that's fine. However, the other siege I already had going on our other front comes to nothing because of an earthquake. The map ripples weirdly, a very big earthquake, and what appears to have happened is it killed virtually all of my troops, leaving the enemy troops intact. That's extremely inconvenient. I think the enemy might have been talking to the gods or whatnot, and we've just been struck down. So obviously I can't do anything now. I just have to go back and this army's over really. Its troops are so dead, there's nothing we can make of it. We just have to recruit another one and go back to that project later. Inconvenient, at least our general is still alive, so we can still use him. As for our siege, I decided to split this into 2 armies because I'm recruiting more and more stuff nearby. I was originally thinking let's go after both settlements at once, but then I thought no, I'll go for the old double siege right here to make this siege a bit easier, since it's probably going to be the more difficult of the attacks. What I ended up doing is waiting I think 2 more turns, and then I just auto-resolved it. It actually wasn't a very good auto-resolve. We lost like double what the enemy lost in the battle. Very nasty actually, but it saved me some time, and that's a key part of many of my strategies. We've also become severely wounded again. I think that's the 3rd time our commander is severely wounded. I'm guessing they don't stack. If they do, we're in trouble. What I did here is then combine the armies together. I still had enough stuff to have 1 full stack in healthy condition. We'll quickly win this nearby battle. That actually wasn't a very good auto-resolve, annoyingly. And now we can go on towards the other settlement. We'll slap a couple of watchtowers on the way. And my apologies to the guy in the comments on the first episode who mentioned you shouldn't put watchtowers on roads, because I didn't see that until I played at least this far. I'm still doing it, I just love those watchtowers being on roads. Anyway, you can see that ahead of us, there's actually a siege draw-out opportunity for us, so I thought let's just dive on in and do this. It's a balanced engagement, and we are facing the chief's son. Psych, I don't know who this guy is. Well, let's try and kill them all so we can avoid a siege. I was too pushy with this battle. I rushed forwards, trying to intercept their reinforcements, which I usually wouldn't bother doing, just because it's kind of simpler to let the enemy form up first, even though it's a bit harder. You don't have to pay as much attention. The thing is, by moving forwards to intercept the reinforcements, the defending AI army, the original army on the field, actually came over to help. If it hadn't done that, this would have been fine, but now we're fighting awkwardly on the flank against one of the armies, so it's just not a very good setup for our formation. Still, looks like these troops who are charging our front line are being killed or stun-locked by the guns. That's looking good, and as usual, my lack of micro with the gun cav is a problem. Need to kind of commit to actually using them manually if I'm going to take them off skirmish mode, since they get caught in melee all the time due to their short range. Now we're going to try and do something about that big blob of enemy troops that's sitting on our flank. Luckily, most of the blob are skirmishing units. That means it's actually easy to do something about them. We just ram in there with our faction leader with his gold experienced bodyguards and easily kill them, make them skirmish away or rout them. So that's that, meaning it's going to turn into an easier fight from now on. We've got all these little pocket battles going on, and I just need to get my gun cav to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. There was another case where our troops were skirmishing away from the guys they were supposed to be shooting at, with that low range being an issue. There's the last bits of the skirmisher blob being pushed away. So that's that. The music comes to a crescendo here, but nothing happens afterwards. We've still got a couple of blobs to grind through. But now we have all of our archers, and I'm going to try and micro them to get some good lines of sight, shooting crossways down the lines and stuff. trying to do something similar with the guns. Not very successful though, they're not actually in a very good place to be shooting at things. Behind the enemy would be better, but clearly I decided to not bother giving them any orders in this case and do other things with my time, I guess. We've taken out most of the enemy stuff, we just need to finish them off. It's hard to rout some of their units because their faction leader and faction heir are on the field at both ends of our line. Here is their faction leader, he completely annihilated the unit he was facing. However, he didn't go through to fight the archers here behind them. He's running across the back of our line. This gives the archers a chance to unleash a volley into the back of his unit. That's going to ignore his shield bonus, which perhaps was quite a lot, because those rabbit boys, who are one of our inferior archer units, the lower than trash style units, actually get quite a lot of kills. We're also shooting them from the front with more arrows and from the flank with some of our gunners. Overall, this general's bodyguard is in trouble. The other general is somewhere off there in the background in the left, so pretty much their army's dead. We're just finishing off survivors at this point. And amid this absolute chaos of arrows falling down on this unit is the enemy king. We take out all of the bodyguards after a while and they're just so stun locked they can't get out of this situation. It's perfect for us. And there's the king flailing about, being hit by arrow after arrow. Eventually he does die, just need to work through his hit points and such, and his death also ends the battle. However, we want to continue it because we need to kill that faction heir to make sure no characters survive and go back inside the town. And eventually we get ourselves to this result. It was a bit costly because the melees in general aren't very good for us, but it doesn't matter too much because really that's a war-ending battle. In fact, it's more of a war-ending battle than I thought, because we killed the faction leader and heir, and it's doing the Teutonic system where that means the faction gets deleted. So actually, it's kind of bad because it means their settlement is turned over to the rebels. This causes a new army to spawn inside, only a small one. But you could say the siege draw-out failed. It would have been a bit easier to actually let some enemies survive that fight and then just fight like 5 guys attacking the walls. Anyway, inconvenient. You can see I came back with a new army freshly recruited to go back to the earthquake place. They have also been converted to rebels, so the big army that's inside has been deleted. I guess it's all in balance then, that's easier than it was before, but the other place was harder than it was before. As for these sieges, we just wait a bit and then to resolve our way in. This first one gives us the Spear of Kukulkan on our faction leader, probably a good thing. This army's not going to hang around, we can start moving back south for future projects, which I'll get to in a second. And here's the other auto-resolve. Not a very good one, but I guess it didn't matter too much. After we move in, we actually now border the Viking faction quite a lot, and this turns out to be relevant because they're right outside this settlement. I think I took it just in time. It was about to fall to the Vikings. I thought I'll walk around them and go put watchtowers on the border, but we ended up walking into their zone of control. I thought the little line there, path found around the zone of control, but apparently not. I thought maybe I could use this princess I have to get a marriage alliance with the Vikings. However, after looking at them, I thought no, they all looked terrible. So just for the sake of our princess, we won't do that. But you can see I am planning to trust them. I'm basically going to walk past their army, just set up my watchtowers, and then wait around up there. What I'm really thinking about is our next southwards project, and that is to attack the blue guys, the Paynel Empire, because they're actually on the list of people we're supposed to be fighting, and they're next to us. Also, it's a little bit similar to the Kukulkan thing, where they're basically just the Aztecs, so we don't have to do anything special to defeat them. It's going to be very much the same thing. However, this time, if we declare the war, we'll have the element of surprise. So I'm going to spend a few turns just stacking up loads of armies on their border, so we can swarm them and hopefully get it over with quickly. While I did my preparations, I got this alliance with the Sikrarex nation. Someone in the comments, a couple of people actually, were saying I need to kill these guys as soon as possible, otherwise I'm screwed. Well, all this happened before I saw those comments. Instead, I'm allied to them. Maybe that's okay. Apparently they're going to show up and absolutely obliterate me later. We'll just have that when it happens, I guess. I'm not going to go after them because I was more interested in doing other things, and as we just saw, I got this alliance with them once we first made diplomatic contact. We'll just see how badly that turns out in the end. That should be fun. In the meantime, the red guys are sitting awkwardly outside of my settlement, and I'm still trusting them. That's good of me. the uruks have showed up. I've been at war with them for a while. For some reason, they actually sent a very small army to attack my little bit of territory in the middle of the map. It's actually small enough that the small garrison I have there should be competitive with it, so I was willing to just let them sit there and try to siege attack me if they could. And now we're moving on to deployment time. I'm going to attack the Penal Empire right now, and you'll see why I'm doing it right now in a second. To start with, I've got this army on our eastern front. That's going to rush down and make this really easy attack. I need some siege weapons to get in, but there's basically nothing inside that place. So if there are no reinforcements, that's all fine. Over in the west, you can see I'm not even in position yet, so I'm making this attack a bit before I was ready. I was trying to set up for a 3-army attack, but because I have so much movement range, I don't need to be ready. I can still move halfway down the map and attack this poorly defended settlement. That's another good siege to start off with. But the main show is the next thing I'm going to do. I've got this reserve army. It's going to move down into the central theatre, the main theatre. I can link these guys up with a guy who just came of age over here and use them as a backup army. The main army is right here, ready to go and attack Tenochtitlan, which is the capital of the Penal Empire. And the reason I want to attack now is because, as you can see, there's an ideal siege draw-out situation at the current time. So what I did is combine these two armies to get all of the best units into the first one, and now we'll plough into that one unit, thus drawing out the second army for a gigantic, decisive siege draw-out to get this war started. Here I am looking over the units, and yes, it's pretty much the same things as the warriors of Kukulkan, as I said, perhaps focusing more on Mesoamerican units rather than Northern American units, but similar stat-wise and the same idea. Lots of archers again too, juicy targets for us to skirmish off the field, but lots of okay melee troops as well. In this battle I first tried out my double line archer theory, the theory being that they'll shoot into the sky less if they're in 2 lines, one behind the other, rather than one thicker line. What I wanted to do in this battle was secretly place my gunners on the enemy's flank for the entire battle, but they saw me doing it. Well, I guess there was always a chance of that happening. Annoyingly, we're attacking uphill as well. There was no good way to approach the enemy army in this case. So we end up fighting. As you can see here, I've got a big line of pirates defending the archers, and now we sit back and let our archers just fire into the enemy blobs and try to get some kills. We'll also have this unit of cav going right behind the enemy formation. That's going to come in useful later. We can fold a bit on the hill to be ever so slightly less downhill charged and slightly outflank the enemy there. Overall, the terrain's not too bad at the actual point of the front line. It's only slightly downhill. I'm carrying on with my plan on the left there, by the way, where I'm putting the guns on the enemy flank. However, they are moving their troops to melee attack me, so this is generally a bad idea. However, other troops are moving backwards. They're seeing my cav going around the back and they're committing troops to stopping me. That's great because it takes things off the front line. Looks like my archers are still firing straight up into the sky, so it's not perfectly working, but I feel like this setup is a bit more efficient than the single line setup. As expected, the guns are now fighting in melee up against the edge of the map, so that's not great. And the guys who aren't in melee also aren't really shooting anything, they're just being hit by arrows at the moment. So that whole plan isn't really working, but now it's time to strike from behind. Our cav will come in to clear out those archers. I've got another gun cav unit that you just saw me there trying to put right behind my line infantry to shoot over the top of them. And here, every time an enemy unit turns off the front line to go and chase my cav at the back, they're getting slammed by arrows in the back, and we're actually getting quite a lot of kills because of that. There is something though that starts to become evident, like right here when I rout this archer unit. We're fighting this battle really close to the edge of the map, and that's really not ideal for a battle that is a siege draw-out. Our plan here isn't to win, it's to completely win and destroy everything. This is a situation where it's going to be not too difficult for the enemy to just leave the map if they rout. So a lot of units, their lesser units in particular, that rout at high strength, are going to be a risk for us. They'll get a lot of the enemy's proportional troop count off the map easily, as we can see here. So I need to focus on getting troops off my front line really and over to the left, so there's more stuff blocking the shortest route to the line. You can see another unit there just to the right of my left moving through an open gap. I try to arrange that and we get something going. And then, well, we just keep hacking. We've got more archers to rout with our cav, and our archers are firing away, some of them starting to run out of ammo at this stage, but there are bodies all over the place behind the front line, so this is totally working. We're getting plenty of kills. It's kind of hard to see as the battle goes on, because we don't have projectile trails on. I'm not sure if there even are projectile trails in Medieval 2, I don't remember. But we're killing stuff, it's just kind of not obvious. Also, the front line engagement's going quite well, because as mentioned previously, our pirates have really good morale, so it's hard for the enemy to break through. And pirates are also okay. I've been mean to them before, but looking at their stats, they do have better stats than some of the enemy's stuff. They're about equal to the enemy's eagle warriors and a bit worse than their jaguar warriors. So while we don't have infantry that can match the enemy's good infantry, our generic stuff is better than their trash. And sometimes that's all that matters because you're often facing trash. As you can see, things start to go our way. Well, they finish going our way, I should say, because we eventually chain route everything that's left on the field. Then the real work happens, which I'm just going to cut out as I run around killing everything, and we end up with this result. It looks like we've done it. We've got more than 85% of both individual armies killed. Wanted to check the stats to see who was doing the killing, and this is why I'm so sure the archers were helping us out, because even our bad archers got quite a few kills during the battle. But also the pirates did get a fair few kills. They certainly traded well. They were getting at least 1-for-1 trades in their fights. So I think the pirates are decent enough. Anyway, less praise for the pirates. We have successfully done the siege draw out. For some reason I paused here, thinking if there was any advantage to having my reinforcement army attack the settlements to make the capture. Pretty sure there isn't. And that's that. We also sacked the place, making tons of cash, and we've got ourselves a nice decisive start to the war. We've taken their capital on the very first turn of hostilities, and we got a crystal skull for our trouble, which gives extra hit points to our faction leader, counterbalancing the fact that he's on the verge of death from battle wounds. Next, it is battle time, because the uruks make that attack that I was willing to let them make. We could of course have just killed them with the troops in the other town nearby. But here's a chance to get a siege defense, which is always interesting. Their troops seem okay, but nothing too special, probably better than us in melee though, so we'll keep that in mind for any future engagements. In this case, we don't really need to know about that, because the whole battle is going to be fought really by our towers and archers. All we need to do is destroy their ram, and then they're stuck outside and the battle is ours to control. So we've got the fire archers going after them, but as you can see we have the usual Medieval 2 walls thing where troops in the second rank can't shoot over the walls properly, and some of the troops in the first rank can't either. Pretty annoying. But some of the arrows are going to hit the ram, and the towers will sometimes shoot firebolts as well. After a while the ram gets set on fire. We have the chance here to just quit the battle, because now it's just going to be a stalemate. I thought no though, I want the battle to keep going, because our towers will kill more enemies. If we just stop now, their army will still be there and we'll just have to do something else. So we keep going, and what this essentially does is just turn the AI off, so the battle's still going but their units will just stand there, meaning fine, we'll just hang about and kill them. I thought they were going to withdraw, so I was preparing to run out after them with the cav, but no. This means we just wait and grab some free kills. But we are actually taking a tiny bit of damage in return, because their archer unit is shooting up onto the walls. I can have my archers focus them down to reduce the effect of this. Looks like they're also having the shoot into the sky problem, so they're not doing very much. Now here we are a bit later. What came to happen is we took out most of the enemies, but when their units get really small, the towers are sufficiently inaccurate that they can't hit them. The towers very rarely shoot onto their target directly, they shoot around it, and the area of effect is big enough there, or the area they can shoot into I should say, is big enough that once the target is just a couple of guys, they extremely rarely actually get an on-target shot. This means the battle then lasts a very long time, but of course we're skipping through this. Eventually their uruk bodyguards came forward, and stood before the gates. I think I harassed them with my cav or something to make them do this. And then they just start shouting at us. You can see they are getting hit by quite a few arrows. They've got sufficient armor that they're pretty good at surviving being hit by arrows. What we found is that my regular archers were able to kill them. The towers, though, are much less able to do so. Once we're out of normal arrows and we're just relying on the towers, the killing rate drops dramatically. But you might note that as the enemy unit was killed, their charging here didn't get any quieter. Worst game, 0 out of 10. So they're making a racket. The only way to stop the racket is to kill them all because their voice is passed on to the next living member of the squad or something. And this takes a while. I did try shooting them with the gun cav, but they ran out of ammo. And eventually the AI just died and sat here being hit by arrows until they finally died in real terms by running out of hit points. That's that. We just need to wait for the last guy to die. He's very loudly shouting the song of his entire unit, but that's the Uruk army killed to the last man / Uruk, and their little invasion is over. So now we jump back to my Paynal project. I'm going to rush an army from Tenochtitlan down to the southwest to help out with this attack. First we pushed away the enemy's scant reinforcements. Now we can make a 2-stack attack on the settlement. It's an okay-ish auto-resolve, and we move on in, that's all fine. Once that was done, I thought we might as well go on and kill these scraps outside. That balance bar's not quite good enough for me. We can make it a little bit better by bringing in the entire second army as well. It doesn't get that much better though, and look at those results. We lost about the same amount as them despite our gigantic 2-army advantage. That was a mean auto-resolve, and, well, I didn't do a safety save, so we can't do anything about it. I guess we just have to tolerate that. From here, we'll want to go south to hit the next bit of the Paynal Empire, but that empire is rapidly dying at this stage. They've only got about as much as Kukulkan had at the start of this part, and actually it's going to get a bit better for us, because in this other siege battle, where there's basically nothing inside, we can destroy their faction leader. I actually safety saved this one because I thought their high command stars might multiply into some kind of miraculous victory for them. I've seen things like that happen occasionally in Medieval 2, but anyway, it was fine. And yes, killing that faction leader actually was the last general alive or something, because it ends their faction. So that was that. The Paynal Empire only lasted 2 turns once we went against them. Good stuff. I'm pretty sure it's because all of their armies were fighting the yellow guys off on the other side of their territory, so this was a very opportune attack by us. We barely had to fight them at all. And that's that. One of our victory factions has been taken down, and those yellow guys are also one of our victory factions, so we kind of need to go on through their territory and attack them as well. Before that though, there are now going to be a couple of rebel settlements around that will be left over from Paynal, so we'll want to take them as soon as possible before anyone else does. Now you might think the next part's going to be me fighting the yellow guys, but actually I ended up doing 3 other projects, a 3-front war in various places. So we'll talk about all that later, and at some point we probably will get around to the war against the yellow guys. I'll work out their faction name eventually. But yes, some more interesting things happened in the meantime.